Today we're going to talk about piracy. And no, not that kind of piracy. I'm talking about software piracy. Downloading software for free that you would normally have to pay for. So there's a couple of perspectives that I have on this. One of them is there's this idea that I see floating around that using pirated software is some sort of third option between using proprietary software and free software. So the issue of proprietary software, it really isn't with the cost. In fact, there's free open source applications that I personally use which cost money, such as Threema. So it's GPL, it's open source, you can compile the app from source yourself if you want, but to actually send messages or really use the app in any way, you have to pay for the service. So cost really isn't a problem when it comes to software. It's malicious features that are coded into the software, which are the problem. The software spying on you, monitoring your activity, sending things like the list of applications you have open, or your keystrokes, or recording things through your microphone or built-in webcam, and then sending that to remote servers that are under the control of the same company that created the app. Those are the problem. And the bloat of proprietary applications is also a problem. I can guarantee you that if something like the code base of Windows 10 or the Adobe software was to be released to the public and anyone could work on it if they wanted to, like essentially if it were to be GPL'd, or if it were to be released under an MIT license, the code could be refactored into something that is half the size and twice as fast. It could use half of the amount of RAM, and that's because a lot of corporations produce bloated software, whether it's proprietary or open source. It really doesn't matter, because for whatever reason, a lot of managers and tech leads, basically the people that are in charge of these corporations, they think that whoever writes the most code is the most productive. So even if you're a developer that knows better and you have a bit of a moral quandary to think of, right? Should you write fewer lines of code and take time to solve problems in shorter, more elegant ways, which is the right thing to do from a developer perspective? Or should you play the corporate game and write lots of lines of bloated nonsense in order to earn an easy promotion? A lot of people are going to pick the second one, and I don't blame them. So if you choose to pirate software as a means of sticking it to the proprietary man, remember that they are still able to collect data from you and use that against you for profit. And since the app still isn't open source, it's really difficult to mitigate any type of malicious sub-functions that the app might have. And even if you don't care about all of that, like let's say, you're whatever, I'm gonna go and download this proprietary app, I don't care about free software or any of that stuff, you still have to worry about the potential of malware, okay? So the app still isn't open source. It's going to be really difficult to tell if anybody added any type of malware to the app, or if there's a crypto miner in it. Again, it's going to be very hard to tell that something's up. Even detecting a crypto miner is going to be really hard unless you know exactly how much CPU, GPU, and RAM resources the program is supposed to use, which you probably aren't going to know for sure, like with your specific hardware, unless you have a legitimate copy of the program. And also keep in mind it has to be the same version of the program, because usually if you're getting a cracked or pirated application, it's going to be of an older build. But yeah, you probably don't have a legitimate copy because that's the whole reason that you're pirating in the first place. Then there's the ethics side of things. So this kind of stuff more applies to creative works like music and movies. These industries are the ones that are really beating the war drum that piracy is theft. Now, the thing is, piracy isn't theft. In fact, if we really shouldn't call it piracy, because it isn't even a very accurate way of describing what is going on. It's more like making unauthorized copies of media. Because real piracy is forcing your way onto a vessel, taking that person's stuff, and then selling it on the black market somewhere else. So that person doesn't have the original items anymore. And in a way, you can argue that you're bringing down the market value of these items because you can just go purchase them stolen, like illegitimately, from this guy. So ripping music off of a CD is in no way equivalent to what this guy is getting up to. If you copy a CD, it's not like the CD disappears or something like that. And 99 times out of 100, actually, it's probably more like 999,099 whatever times out of a million, the pirates, like software pirates or music pirates or whatever, they aren't making any money off of piracy, okay? Maybe back in the early 2000s, you could find some people that were selling like bootleg movies out of the trunk of their car, but that's pretty much gone now. All right, people are either going to watch your stuff the way that you want them to, right? Netflix, Spotify, or whatever, or they're going to pirate it. It's as simple as that. I'm a content creator, my revenue depends on people watching my stuff the so-called correct way, right? So that would be going onto YouTube with either a YouTube premium account or watch a few ads during the video. But there's all sorts of ways to get around this. Hell, I've shown you guys how to get around this. And frankly, I don't care if someone wants to do it because I'm mostly just happy that A, someone was able to enjoy my content the way they want to view it, because otherwise they might not watch it at all or know anything about me. And B, the richest content creators, whether we're talking about YouTube, Spotify, or whatever, they don't make their money off of their content anyway. I think it's pretty well known at this point. Rappers, YouTubers, they make most of their money off of their brand. Merch deals, sponsorships, things like that. The amount of money that you make off of your brand entirely, well, not entirely, but it mostly depends on how popular your brand is. So denying pirates access to your brand, like if there's some kind of magic wand that you can wave where you say, I'm going to make it impossible for anyone to hear my music unless they actually paid for my CD, that would bite you in the ass because less people would know about you. And like I said, you would make less money if less people know about you. And I think the same kind of logic applies to software vendors as well. So let's say that you pirate Sony Vegas or the Adobe Suite to become a YouTuber. If you're using this software every time that you make a video, chances are you're going to be very good with that software by the time that you've got a few hundred videos uploaded. And depending on your niche, you might also be making some actual money by the time that you have that many videos up, at which point you'll probably just end up paying for the software so that you can get the premium features. The older cracked versions, they're probably not going to have all that. Plus, you can write that kind of stuff off on your taxes, so it makes more sense to actually start paying for stuff to create content once you're making money off of that content. But if piracy was impossible, all of these content creators, they would be forced to use GIMP and KDN Live and free software alternatives. And if someone gets good with these programs, they might not even bother with Photoshop or Sony Vegas, especially if they're doing YouTube, because these programs are FOSS and they're capable of doing pretty much anything that the paid proprietary apps can do with respect to just making content for YouTube or whatever. So since piracy isn't theft and it doesn't actually hurt most businesses in the long run, I really don't see anything ethically wrong with it either. But as a side note, I would say this. It's probably best to avoid pirating smaller creators because their brand isn't as popular, and so most of their income is probably going to be from ad revenue or from you watching their stuff on Netflix. Well, I guess if they're on Netflix, they might be a little bit better, but you know what I mean. They probably don't have big brand deals, and they probably don't have all sorts of other deals with different companies that they're earning money from. They probably just have the content that they create. So it's better to pay for that or to, watch it with ad revenue, whatever the correct way is. And then if you're pirating a lot of stuff from any specific band or whatever, you should definitely go buy a concert ticket to one of their concerts, right? Or buy some of their merch. You're obviously a fan of someone if you download and listen to their entire discography, so it only makes sense.